yameinu, limnot yameinu, limnot yameinu, ken hodavanavi, levav hochoma. Limnot yameinu, ken hodavanavi, levav hochoma. Teach us to treasure each day. Teach us to treasure each day, that we may open our hearts to your wisdom. Oh, teach us to treasure each day. We are in the midst of treasuring each day, of counting the Omer, the days between Passover and Shavuot. On Passover, we were freed from slavery, and during the next 7 weeks, we prepare ourselves to receive the Torah on Shavuot. During these 7 weeks, we are transformed from Avdei Pharaoh, slaves to Pharaoh, to Avdei Hashem, servants of God. Kabbalists see this period of the Omer as a time of intense preparation for receiving the Torah on Shavuot. These 7 weeks of our journey from Passover to Shavuot is a time for personal refinement. In Jewish mysticism, the Omer is associated with 7 aspects of the divine and human personalities. Each of us is innately endowed with these qualities, as we are beings created in the divine image. During the weeks of counting the Omer, we become aware of and cultivate these qualities that are always within and around us. I like the sense that we are uncovering these qualities that have become difficult to access or have become blocked due to our own fears and anxieties, due to our own habits of slavery. These past few weeks, I have been on a course through the Institute of Jewish Spirituality called Awareness in Action, Cultivating Character through Mindfulness and Midot. Each week during the 7 weeks of the counting of the Omer, we cultivate and become aware of a sacred character trait. We uncover the trait that is within us. Each attribute is related to all the others. We combine each one with the one before it. I'll take you through the first few weeks and share a little of what I learned about each of the qualities to be uncovered as we prepare to receive the Torah. At this moment, we are in the 5th week, the week of Hod, of splendor. I'll tell you a little about the journey through the first 5 weeks, through Chesed, Gevura, Tiferet, Netzach, and this week Hod. The first week of the Omer, we cultivated the trait of Chesed, loving connection. Chesed is an inner quality that we already possess, which makes us capable of being more loving and connected. Chesed is an unbounded flow of infinitely expansive, unconditionally loving energy, which surrounds and permeates and connects everyone and everything. In this time of physical isolation and distancing, Chesed may be the trait we need the most. In our physical isolation from each other, we may notice our palpable deep yearning for connection with family, with friends, for normal life. Our desire for connection and the pain we experience in disconnection and alienation is a manifestation of the Chesed within us and between us. Chesed is present in our desire to relate, to heal, to repair, to love, to know and be known. During the week of Chesed, we allow the flow of loving kindness just to spill through us. And just as importantly, we notice that which hinders our ability to access Chesed, to our innate loving kindness, our inner Pharaoh, the hardening of our hearts. And we learn to meet our constrictions too with great compassion. During the week of Chesed, I had to cancel plans to visit my mother in New York. I waited on the phone for hours and hours and hours, day after day, only to be disconnected day after day. When I finally got through to a person, I was angry and frustrated. But I had been practicing cultivating chesed, and I was able to respond to the person on the other end of the phone with loving connection, as she was also frustrated at having to work long hours with angry customers. The phone call was pleasant and satisfying for both of us. I love the words of our Prime Minister during our level 4 lockdown, and she continues to tell us this. Act as if you have COVID, and act that everyone that you meet has COVID. Treat yourself and everyone you meet with tender, loving care. We studied Psalm 89, Olam Chesed Yibaneh. The world is built with love. The second week of the counting of the Omer, we cultivated the trait of Gevura, setting wise boundaries. A way of containing this wild flow of chesed. We learned to contain it with Gevura. Gevura has the meaning of strength, restraint, and setting wise boundaries. We studied the words of the Talmudic sage Ben Zoma, who asked, who is strong? One who controls his passions. Who is powerful? One who restrains their impulses. We practice Gevura by setting strong boundaries and infusing them with chesed, with loving connection, so that they connect us with others instead of pushing them away or walling ourselves off. During the week of Gevura, we can notice our power and integrate our strength with loving connection. We pay attention to recognizing Gevura as an inner quality that we already possess, which makes us capable of discerning and setting wise physical, emotional, and spiritual boundaries. We notice constriction and tension and guilt and annoyance. Our thoughts, what will others think? I can't let people down. Sometimes I automatically say yes, afraid to disappoint. And then I think, oh no, what did I just do? I don't have time to take on this project. And sometimes I automatically just say no, usually out of fear that I can't do the project, and then I regret it. When we can access our inner Gevura, we can find the wisdom and the strength to discern the honest truth. Maybe there are other options between fully engaging and fully disengaging. And then we enter the week of Tiferet, of beauty, harmony, compassion. Tiferet is situated in the middle of the Kabbalistic tree of life. It's in between Hesed and Gevura. It represents the harmonizing instinct that is within us. The trait that we practiced, which is associated with Tiferet, is Anava, balanced self. Anava is usually translated as humility, which we sometimes think of as making ourselves smaller. Anava, or humility as balanced self, seeks proper inner balance, setting wise boundaries between ourself and others. We practice Anava and humility by combining Hesed and Gevura. We notice how and when we tend to inflate and deflate our sense of self. We become aware of how our sense of self is disproportionately sometimes puffed up and sometimes diminished. We notice when and how we overstep boundaries or we shy away from others. And then we can notice the situations where we tend to take up too much space or too little space. When do I tend to shrink? When do I tend to overstep? Sometimes we take up too much space. Sometimes we take up too little space. Sometimes we step back when we should step forward. It's a constant balance between Gevura and Hesed. In the fourth week of the Omer, we are in the divine emanation of Netzach, ambition, fortitude, endurance, a forceful stream of energy by which we engage in creation and enact change in the world. The character trait associated with Netzach is Zerizut, energetic response. The Baal Shem Tov, founder of modern Hasidism, taught that as beings formed in the image of the Holy Blessed One who generates worlds, everything we do should be bezerizut, with energy and dedication, since in every act we are able to serve God. Consequently, he teaches, we are to hold fast to the quality of zerizut, the energy available to fuel action which transforms ourselves and creation. We experience zerizut in our instinct to act, to produce, to create, to transform. Zerizut is our get up and go, both the short burst energy we need to initiate an action, even the energy we need to just get out of bed, get off the couch, get out the door, as well as slow release energy, which sustains momentum once we have started doing something. Often we may not even be able or even desire to access our get up and go, especially in this time of physical isolation. It may be all we can do to get out of bed each morning. We may feel depleted and avoidant. Or we may suffer from an excess of zerizut. We feel constantly driven to perform, to do, to produce, to improve. The text that we studied during the week of Netzach was from Pirkei Avot. Rabbi Tarfon said, "It is not your responsibility to finish the work, but neither are you free to desist from it." And now, this week, the 5th week of the Omer, is represented by the divine emanation Hod, splendor. And it's associated with the trait of Hodaya, gratitude. In contrast to zerizut, the sacred impulse to act and engage the world and to transform it, Hodaya represents our innate ability to notice, accept, and find joy in simply being with what is, exactly as it is. Zerizut arises from dissatisfaction with our world and from a sense that there is so much work to be done. How can I practice gratitude when so many are suffering and are ill and don't have a safe place to stay? Hodaya balances Netzach by allowing us to experience ourselves and our world as enough. We might associate it with Shabbat, a time for experiencing a sense that, as Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel wrote, just to be is a blessing. Just to live is holy. I noticed that even though I was grateful for the quiet and calm of these days during isolation, and feeling deep gratitude for being safe and well and sharing my bubble with my son, I would often feel the fear of inevitable loss. This is not going to last. During this week of Hod, I practiced accepting the beauty of what is, even if it's only momentary, instead of yearning it for it to last or for it to be otherwise. So during these days of the Omer, may you be blessed with peace. May you be blessed with Chesed, Gevura, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, and Malchut. Loving kindness, strength, compassion, endurance, splendor, patience, and nobility. May you be safe and healthy. May you live with ease. And may you receive your own Torah on Shavuot.